They say if you want to find out who someone truly is, all you need to do is watch how they treat the people they think can do nothing for them. That's a lesson my family learned in the strangest, most unexpected way, and honestly, I'm not sure any of us would be here if it wasn't for one ridiculous plan my dad hatched out of desperation. You see, my father was the kind of old man you'd spot sitting quietly at the edge of a busy street, his face weathered, eyes full of stories nobody bothered to ask about. But he was once a man of the land, tough hands, big laugh, the kind of guy who could coax tomatoes out of the worst soil. He gave everything he had so his son, me, Austin, could have a life far from that old farm. And I did. I lived in a house so big it echoed, with ceilings so high the sunlight took its time coming down, marble counters so polished they'd blind you at sunrise, and not a single piece of furniture that ever felt comfortable to sit on. My mom's laughter used to bounce off those walls, but she'd been gone for years. All that was left were her pictures and the silence. I was 35, stuck in my routine, my world run by calendar alerts and unread emails, slipping out each morning in a suit sharp enough to cut. I barely ate. I barely smiled. The staff kept their distance, probably for the best. I never had much to say. My father, Harold, saw all this and it ate him up. He promised my mom he'd look after me, make sure I didn't grow old alone, but after years of watching me politely date, only to quietly shut it all down before anything real could happen, he lost hope. The women I met? They loved the house, the cars, the dinners at places with names I couldn't pronounce. They didn't see me, not really. Eventually, Dad stopped trying to convince me that there was someone out there who could love me for who I was, not what I owned. He'd just sit by the fire, eyes on Mom's old painting, thinking, praying, wishing for something to change. One sleepless night, he made a decision, a move so wild it's funny now. He decided to become someone nobody would expect, a beggar. He wanted to find a woman who'd see past appearances, who'd treat a stranger with kindness for no other reason than it was the right thing to do. So, he pulled out his old farm clothes, scuffed up shoes, grabbed his cane, and, with a whispered promise to Mom's memory, set off before dawn, leaving our fancy house behind. He took a seat outside a supermarket on the other side of town, a place where folks barely had time to notice the old man sitting on the bench. Hour after hour, he watched people. Most hurried by, eyes on their phones, lost in their own troubles. And then, just as the morning crowd began to thin, a black Range Rover tore through a puddle, splashing him with filthy water. The driver, some young woman with designer sunglasses and a voice cold enough to freeze the air, looked at him like he was gum on her shoe, told him off for being in the way, and drove on, leaving a crowd of uncomfortable bystanders. My father just sat there, dripping and cold, until someone finally broke the silence, a young woman, plain clothes, dark skin glowing in the sunlight, her smile as warm as summer. She didn't pity him. She just handed him tissues, a bottle of water, told him kindly to clean up, then moved on, her day as busy as anyone's, but her heart open. Dad watched her help others, a dropped grocery bag here, a gentle word there. He felt something he hadn't in years, hope. When he came home that night, I barely noticed the change. But the next day, the same young woman showed up again, banana in hand, asking if he'd eaten. She wasn't rich, not by a long shot. Her own life was a string of odd jobs, caring for her sick mother and little brother, living above a tailor's shop in a cramped, cheerful apartment. But what she had, she gave freely. Kindness, dignity, a respect for herself and for others that didn't bend, no matter how little she had. Her name was Min.My father watched her for days, saw how she treated the world with quiet grace, how she never asked for anything, never complained. Back at the mansion, life went on. I was lost in my work, in numbers, in silence, barely noticing the new cleaning girl who'd started that week. Min. She moved through the house with a gentleness that even the staff respected. Flowers in the vases looked fresher, the kitchen felt warmer, the rooms just lighter. She hummed as she worked, never loud, just a presence you could feel, the way you noticed the sun warming your back. And then there was Claire, the woman from the car. She started showing up at the mansion, her laughter ringing through the halls, her perfume sticking to the air long after she'd left. She'd parade her shopping bags, make plans for parties. I'm Min with that same cold disdain. One morning, as Min was setting out tea, Claire made a scene calling her just a maid, reminding her, loudly, of her place. I stood there, watching the exchange, and for the first time, I felt the sting of shame, not for Min, but for myself. I saw Claire for what she was, and I saw Min stand there, back straight, eyes down, her dignity untouched by the cruelty thrown at her. That was the moment something in me snapped. And I think Dad knew it, too, because he chose that moment to step forward, cane tapping, voice steady as stone. He told Claire exactly who he was. He reminded her of the day she'd splashed him, told her she'd shown her true self. Kindness, he said, is for everyone. Real character is how you treat people who can't give you anything. Claire tried to defend herself, but the room had already judged her. She left, angry, humiliated. We thought that was the end of it. But in stories like mine, there's always another turn. Claire, furious, tried to destroy me. She hired someone to plant drugs in my office, frame me for crimes I hadn't committed. The man she hired, by pure luck, was someone I'd once helped. Years ago, I'd paid for his mother's medicine, gave his sister a job. Instead of betraying me, he came to the mansion, told me everything. We brought the evidence to the police, and in court, Claire's own words, recorded on tape, sealed her fate. She got 15 years. That chapter closed, just like that. And after that storm, the house was different. The silence felt peaceful, not empty. Min kept working, her warmth turning the mansion into something it had never truly been, a home. Slowly, almost without realizing, I found myself seeking out her company, lingering in rooms she'd just cleaned, catching the scent of jasmine in her scarf, listening to her talk about her family, about hope, about small things that mattered. The day I finally met her mother and little brother, squeezed into their tiny apartment, eating a simple meal filled with laughter and light, I realized how much I'd missed, how much my father and I had both missed, waiting for happiness to show up in the right clothes, with the right pedigree. The truth was, happiness had walked in with a mop, a gentle voice, and a heart as wide as the world. Eventually, we held a small gathering at the mansion, just family, the staff, Min's mother and brother. For the first time in years, the rooms rang with laughter, the kitchen was alive with the smell of real food, and my father, sitting by the window, could finally rest easy. The promise he made to my mother had been kept, not by wealth, not by force, but by the stubborn, simple light of kindness that changed everything. So, tell me, after all this, what really makes a house a home? Is it the walls, the riches, the pedigree, or is it the heart you let inside? Yeah, that happened. That's our story. Now I want to hear yours. What would you have done? Who do you think was truly right in the end? Comment below. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a little hope today.